Welcome everyone to a best of 5 PvP. We had two Protoss make it to the finals of the EPT EU Open Cup number 180, which these replays are from, which is actually kind of amazing because despite the Protoss presence in the Open Cup, it's like 50% Protoss or something. It doesn't often happen that PvPs are in the semifinals and certainly not the finals because we have two strong Terrans that usually help knock them out. 3 strong Terrans, 1 or 2 of the strong Zergs actually show up, you know, that type of stuff. So it's pretty cool. We have a PvP between especially these two players, the strongest Protosses of the European region. In the top left, we do have Storm's MaxPax. And in the bottom right, we have BIG's ShoWTimE, who just stays on his Stormgate clan because apparently Team Big doesn't really care. Hopefully they don't care. But anywho, yeah, two best players of Europe. I think most people would say that MaxPax is #1 Protoss in Europe. It's just, you know, the results, right? ShoWTimE has always been capable of getting better results than he has, but hasn't actually been able to deliver on that. So there's the potential, but the delivery is not quite there. Whereas MaxPax has delivered a little bit more often and a little bit more, I suppose, a little bit farther on in the tournament in general. Not only that, there are actual comparisons between their tournament victories. It's just something that we all kind of agree on, right? That MaxPax is showing the, I suppose, modern best way to play Protoss when it comes to PvT. And then for PvP, he still remains a innovator and the best of the one gate expand styles. His prowess as being the best PvPer overall has definitely been hit recently. So whereas it was for a couple of months almost unbeatable, MaxPax was, not so much anymore. And ShoWTimE's always been in the wing of PvP, kind of just watching over MaxPax, as MaxPax gets all the credit and excitement, and we watch him develop the new style, and then we watch him continue to use it despite the Void Ray and Shield Battery nerfs and the map changes and all that good stuff. ShoWTimE's always been in the wing, basically with an absurdly high PvP win rate, and then just not as talked about because the innovation wasn't there and the unique playstyle wasn't there. So they both are still pretty freaking good at PvP. It's kind of the TLDR, but MaxPax just has more eyes on him. This has been one of those interesting PvPs with a lot of intricacies, but as I was talking about other things, I haven't quite caught them all. A typical denial of the expansions. The Zealot has to be made because you have to take out the pylon, but then the Zealots go across the map. They both get Adepts as well to get that scouting, as well as, you know, on the map to help out against the Zealots that they're both sending to each other. And they both go into Stargate because you kind of have to, especially after your Nexus has been blocked. And then they both go into Phoenix because anyone who goes into Oracle could A, lose the Oracle right off the bat to a well-placed Phoenix, or B, lose out on the almost inevitable Phoenix war that will be happening in this game. So I think I did a great job wrapping that up. I hope you guys followed that train of thought. It was brilliant. ShoWTimE Zealot barely surviving to go on the other side of the map is a surprisingly big nuisance. With one Phoenix, can't kill it. Second Phoenix finally pops. And that pylon will stay alive, but you can see how annoying that is. And this is also not something you're going to see every day. MaxPax actually stealing the natural gas geysers of ShoWTimE. Now, if you steal the main base gas geysers, we kind of know just how drastically that affects the Protoss in particular, but any race actually be quite annoying. Just not as effective. But, you know, you're not supposed to be able to block these gases because it's gotten fairly quickly in PvP, and Protoss players are usually pretty on guard about the steal, so they'll block their own assimilator with a probe to stop the steal. But a natural, now that's a different issue. That's just not something I think anyone's really thinking about. But MaxPax did once he recognized this was going to be, of course, expansion versus expansion, but then also Phoenix versus Phoenix. I think the other option, the other reason why this doesn't happen very often is that a probe getting 2 assimilators down this late into the game is also unlikely. Like, the probe should have usually left or been killed. But yeah, that has finally covered the beginning of this PvP, and now if we can take a quick look at the Phoenix count, we can see that the beginning of the end is also at hand, actually. MaxPax dominating the Phoenix count by 1 is still dominating. That's just how Phoenix work. And MaxPax really is the best at Phoenix Wars. There's just no doubt about it. He's got the pattern recognition, so he got a faster Stargate in this game, as well as a faster third gas, which absolutely helped. But then his micro on the Phoenix is also better than his opponent's. So ShoWTimE was already losing the war by the time it became Phoenix versus Phoenix, and then also just literally lost the battle right there. One more Phoenix really does add up, but again, even if that wasn't the case, MaxPax has better Phoenix micro. That has been displayed whenever we do get the rare treat of Phoenix versus Phoenix. And when Phoenix dominate the skies like this, there's nothing that can be done. You would have had I've already been doing what ShoWTimE is currently doing. You would have already had to have been getting into Blink and a Stalker Ball, ideally even going up to maybe like Archons at this point, right? But absolutely not. Not in this game. I'm actually a little surprised that ShoWTimE even bothers to stay in. This is usually the time in which the Protoss player taps out, once they've lost the Phoenix War. I feel like ShoWTimE just kind of holding on to hope. You know, for game one, doesn't necessarily have to. And there's all that damage done by the Phoenix. You just can't do anything about it. Like, I'm actually kind of confused that ShoWTimE's still in this game. You know, he's not usually known as a player who's a bit stubborn. He's not a fantasy GG'er. But in this game, he absolutely is. He's going to go for one last-ditch effort to go for a counterattack, I guess because his probe had managed to successfully escape onto the map. That gave him the tiniest little bit of hope. But you can see that it's not just probes that are in danger from the overwhelming Phoenix presence. It is the Stalkers themselves. They didn't have Blink, but more importantly, they didn't have enough numbers. So it is game over. It just, Well, MaxPax got supply block somehow. I'm actually not sure how. There's a pylon out here, because he would have built shield batteries if he had to. If he was still fighting Phoenix, but not quite, like, winning as much as he did. I assume he also would have tried building shield batteries if he saw the army building. But the army was building on a proxy, right? So MaxPax has Immortals and Phoenix, something that ShoWTimE cannot take on. ShoWTimE does wisely retreat with the recall, but is still in so much trouble. Yes, it is 3 bases to 2, but the Phoenix still reigns supreme. And MaxPax knows how powerful the Phoenix are. He's actually not going to stop building them. He maybe could have gotten to something else, but I don't know. The Phoenix are still very helpful, and they're going to get +1 eventually, too. That started up a bit late, but there was a time in which MaxPax needed every penny to go into just the Phoenix production, and now he's able to flex a little bit more, the Immortals, the +1. And the Phoenixes, in this high of a number, it's just so difficult to stop them from wrecking your probe line. Yeah, you might get some revenge with the Blink Stalkers, but not a whole lot. You maybe will get to a point where there's not enough energy to pick up all the Stalkers, I guess, if MaxPax really does just like roll his face across the keyboard and pick up all the probes. But even that is becoming less and less likely the more Phoenix pop out. ShoWTimE down 10 workers. It's really not that bad. Feels like it could be absolutely worse. How many has he lost in total? 31. But he snuck that 3rd base in. And obviously Phoenix cannot kill buildings. So that was the one thing that ShoWTimE was able to do. And if ShoWTimE wins this game, I would be absolutely shocked. This just should never happen. Now, MaxPax might be a little inexperienced when it comes to this stage of this type of game. Usually, when the Phoenix War is won, the other guy taps out. So it's possible that MaxPax misplays the follow-up a little bit, just because it's so unlikely for someone to do what ShoWTimE has done. And this would actually be a little questionable. Up against the shield battery overcharge, the Phoenix do have their +1, so they are killing things a little bit faster, but that was a decent amount of Stalkers. Probe pull pretty effective against the Immortals as well. So the Immortals, if they weren't shift queued onto the Stalkers, weren't particularly helpful. that was still, you know, one of the worst fights that anyone can take up with a shield battery overcharge, and that still went fine enough for MaxPax. He does lose a Phoenix on the reinforcement, but now at 3 Phoenix at a time, again with that +1, ripping and tearing through these Stalkers. The Immortals apparently are shift queued onto the Stalkers. Now once they've lost the range, they go back to the probes, but yeah, that's going to do it. I can kind of see what ShoWTimE was thinking with staying in. It wasn't as comically stubborn, but this was probably something that he's been like kind of pseudo-experimenting with. He like stayed in a game previously a little bit longer than he usually would and was like, hey, this actually doesn't have, you know, no promise whatsoever. So he tried it again here. And again, it's not a game that there was no promise. It was just very unlikely to ever end in ShoWTimE's victory. GG's. MaxPax wins game number 1. Game 2 is going to be on Ancient Cistern. And the top right's now up 1. It is MaxPax. In the bottom left, we do have ShoWTimE. So ShoWTimE got into a Phoenix battle with probably the best player at Phoenix battles. They don't happen very often, so it's not a particularly helpful accreditation. You know, if he gets a medal, it's not a very impressive medal. It's like, I don't know. I don't know if there is an equivalent, right? It's not a very useful skill to have in 90% of StarCraft games, the PvP games, perhaps even 95%, right? Like, it's very rare to have Phoenix versus Phoenix. But when it does happen, he wins. No problem. 100% maybe. I don't know. No one's ever done that, but I would not be surprised if the last year of Phoenix versus Phoenix battles against MaxPax, he has won perhaps all of them. Actually, it wouldn't shock me that much. But anywho, it's unlikely to happen again, because at the very least, you can have the difference of openers. So that's definitely going to take away the potential of Phoenix versus Phoenix. And then if we do have another map where it is more gooder, where it is better to go for the wall off on the natural, so any map with a ramp, you don't have to go into Phoenix Wars. You can do other things. It's a little more complicated, but it is, yeah, you can definitely do other things. But ShoWTimE decides, you know, not to try and risk it on the low ground expansion on a map without that high grounds, but perhaps also just throwing his hands up in the air and saying, fine, whatever MaxPax you get to do it, I don't care. Because MaxPax is going to do it no matter what map it is. He's not deterred by the lack of extra defense that the Stargate's, that the high ground gives you as he goes into a Stargate. Very expected here. MaxPax's Zealot will stop ShoWTimE from bothering throwing on a pylon. ShoWTimE with the double gateway opener really does have to do some damage if he plans on expanding, or straight up win the game if he plans on all-inning. Thank you, Thusek. So it does look like ShoWTimE plans on being very aggressive. Pylons are being put down, and MaxPax has already found one. Second one also found out. So ShoWTimE not getting any luck with getting something, you know, at least down a location. It's very likely that MaxPax will scout what you're doing, just because he is so thorough about that scouting. But that's not necessarily the issue. Of course, if you can surprise your opponent in StarCraft, that is the absolute best thing you can do, 100%. But it's not what actually can make this attack work out. As you can see, ShoWTimE is not going to be deterred from doing this 4-gate just because his pylons were found, but he might have been deterred from it if the pylons were killed. Now, that would have been a lot more awkward. But since he has more production than his opponent, it is supposed to be inevitable that he is allowed to get a pylon down. He's allowed to build his gateway. He's allowed to warp in. He has more units on the map than MaxPax earlier on. And then MaxPax has the benefit of having a shield battery and the shield battery overcharge and higher technology in the form of this Void Ray. But it's not a lot of units. It is not a lot of units, and with the 4-gate, it's all about that attacking fast and hard, right? You're not waiting for Blink and having that power spike. You're going in with the Stalkers immediately, and you're starting to chip away at the units so that the shield batteries are also kind of chipped away at, if you will. They lose out in the energy. They feel the need to pop the overcharge. You either still one-shot units despite the overcharge, or you can wait it out and come back later, and they're still in trouble. In this case, we are trying to get that Void Ray. One shot does hit its whole health, which is excellent, and the Stalkers actually just literally walk on in. ShoWTimE with a power move right now, and that Void Ray tries to skedaddle, but unfortunately does get that 3-shot. Some Stalkers going down. Additionally, the Void Ray pops its Practical overcharge, and that might kill a Stalker. Not even. Now, this is actually going to be one of the easiest games of ShoWTimE's life. Prismatic alignment not really helping out too much if the Void Ray just dies immediately, does it? And this is apparently a problem that MaxPax has been experiencing. His style of play certainly has been hit by the patches of the last year, but he still does it, and it's still somewhat effective. But then apparently in the last 6 months, there was new and improved, streamlined, better than usual 4 gates hitting him and killing him. And that certainly looked like that. It was a 4-gate that made that game look really easy. MaxPax would no doubt learn from this experience and actually be prepared in future games to literally physically wall the Stalkers away from doing that. But in this game, he was not prepared. That'll do it. Quick 1-1 series. Very quickly into game number 3 on Altitude. In the bottom left, it is MaxPax. In the top right, we got ShoWTimE. PvP's gonna be quick. We know that. We say that all the time, but it is always a little funny. You're always amused by the PvPs that actually go this quick. Just like we say, ZVZs can go really fast. Sometimes they're still just like link-bailing attacks and early roach rushes and stuff, and then, well, actually we have some pretty decently lengthy ZVZs, but then we get, Rogue vs. Serral, and you're like, oh, this was a 5-game series that lasted 25 minutes. That's something right there. I don't know if the rest of the series is going to look similar to the past 2 games, but it wouldn't surprise me if all of the games are rather abrupt. The amount of mind games that are happening between these 2 players might just basically kind of push the likelihood of very fast games higher and higher because they're trying to go for more hard counters. Yeah, rather than, I suppose, soft counters where you're kind of just like, well, he might be getting away with this, but I think if I do this, then I'll probably be okay as the game goes on. It might be more of like, well, if he's doing this, then I have to do this, and if that doesn't work, then I'm freaking screwed. Which is exactly, like last game, right? Like last game, if you open up that way for ShoWTimE, if you don't do that damage, you are screwed. But there's with a game like this, actually, it's a very strong chance that things go a little bit farther because MaxPax is the one that cannot do anything in response to his opponent. It is a little interesting. It's weird to see this Nexus down so fast. So ShoWTimE didn't get a second gas up, and then MaxPax took the opportunity to steal it. But ShoWTimE got his Nexus. And that's a bigger problem. Well, it's weird because a gas stolen in PvP is a pretty freaking big deal, but the Nexus being so much faster for ShoWTimE, I'm pretty sure most Protoss players would say that's a straight up mistake. Now, MaxPax is going to try to get some aggression down with shield batteries. Yeah. But I'm not sure it's actually going to work. The amount of area that he has for this pylon... Okay, well, that's surprising. I didn't know if that was going to be possible. To get shield batteries down is a little questionable. The shield battery number 1 has to be canceled. Probe gets killed. Another one is on the way. No, that's a Zealot. Okay, so he didn't bring another probe. Well, this is actually going so poorly for MaxPax that, yeah, again, it might be a very abrupt game. And I would say that it's not necessarily what I was just talking about. It's not that, like, oh my god, I have to hard counter this thing or I'm freaking dead. I would say this is actually kind of a simple mistake. Not getting the Nexus block while yours is being blocked. Substantially so, by the way. Now a gateway is coming down. I mean, this is just disastrous for MaxPax, whose pylon gets killed and he gets supply blocked because of it. He really doesn't have anything going for him. He's going to take a 3rd base as his natural, zerg it up for a little bit, Oracle gets scouted, but I think it was also a bit on the nose. ShoWTimE has had a stalker here for a while by the looks of it, as he does take care of the forward pressure, no problem, because MaxPax would always be lacking in forward pressure by opting for the one gateway expand build, right? His intention was absolutely to expand, but then he got screwed over not getting the Nexus, so he felt like he needed to apply the pressure, but he was unable to apply a lot of pressure because his build doesn't set up well for pressure. I mean, this is kind of like ShoWTimE not even expecting to be given a present. Oh, you know what it's like? I have a perfect analogy, right? It's like in The Water Boy, as we witness ShoWTimE stalkers actually aggressing onto this side of the map. They're suddenly causing a lot of chaos. Oracle at MaxPax only getting 2 probes, while ShoWTimE looks to just go ahead and take the game, and that is actually that. So, boom, 4-minute game number 3. I'm going to finish my analogy, though, because I love that my brain thought of it this quickly. In The Water Boy, one of his first games, when he's still not, like, a proven success, he, like, gets the ball, he, like, steals it or whatever, but then he wants to tackle the guy, so he, like, throws the ball at him, and then the guy's like, oh, thanks, and then he runs and gets the touchdown. He does get kicked in the face afterwards, but the point is he got the touchdown. I feel like that was ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE was literally given the football, and was like, oh, shit, thanks, and ran in for a touchdown. And whether or not MaxPax will eventually kick him in the face, I guess remains to be seen, depending on how the rest of the series goes. So, yeah, let's get into Game 4. Game number 4 coming up on Neo Humanity. In the top left on his last life, it is MaxPax. In the bottom right, we do have ShoWTimE. And last game was it was a little funny. You know, I gave the comical analogy because it really was just kind of shocking. It's not as simple as MaxPax making a huge mistake, I suppose. Well, it is a huge mistake, but it's not as simple as, like, you know, point and laugh at the guy for not knowing how to play PvP, right? Like, that's... we discredit him quite a bit. It's just that I think the trickery that was happening was kind of in MaxPax's own head, which is that he was like, oh, shit, man, like, I can get this assimilator block. That's going to be so freaking good. But ShoWTimE was like, well, 75 minerals weren't used here, so I could probably get that Nexus down when you're not able to return. And then that happened. I wasn't paying attention enough to see if there was perhaps like a Chrono Boost trick as well going down. I'm not completely sure the order of events, but there is a bit of a concern about whether or not they're Chrono Boosting their probes, and your probe wants to go check if they're Chrono Boosting, because if they're Chrono Boosting, they're spending minerals on building probes, thus not getting a Nexus. Yeah, but the gist is, like, the assimilator block probably looked really golden for MaxPax, but then it resulted in that Nexus going down as fast as it did, and again, he doesn't have a build that can pressure such a thing. He has his own one gateway expand, in which he cannot, you know, turn on a dime there and say, like, oh, well, no, suddenly I'm going to go into a 4-gate. Like, it just doesn't really work out. So it was just kind of funny. It's like the highest level of PvP displaying a little bit of an attempt to get even higher. You know, doing this simulator block and then thinking that you're gonna get them, and then actually it just goes back down to a very basic concept, which is that if you're both trying to get the Nexus up and one person gets it faster, yeah, the guy's kind of screwed. So yeah, just amusing stuff here in the PvP. We got MaxPax actually changing things up and going for a high ground, but yet one gateway expand. So he's changing it up by going high ground instead of low ground. ShoWTimE goes for his high ground typical 2-gateway setup and is actually proxying his own Robo. MaxPax defending with a Stargate on the high ground. This is actually a pretty nice setup, I would say, for MaxPax. I mean, not having the wall at the natural is certainly a decision, one which I think does obviously have its benefits, but in some cases also has its downsides. The wall at the natural can help against, for instance, what we saw in Game 2, funnily enough, which is that the army just overwhelms you. Like, it literally just walks up to you. The wall can be a, you know, literal physical barrier to that, and it was supposed to be in Game 2, but then it didn't happen. So, but anyways, obviously the kind of basic explanation is that if you're on your high ground, if you're on your own main base, then you should probably have a little bit better of the defense. So we'll see if that's true here. For MaxPax, defending the first couple of stalkers seems easy enough. Shield battery will be prepared, and his Oracle will fly across the map to try and do some damage. Certainly no shield battery, single stalker. Shield battery is actually coming in a little bit late. ShoWTimE, he scouted the timing of the Stargate. He knows it's on one base. He knows that his opponent's also expanding. He's got all the information, but that shield battery is a little bit late. Stalkers are turning home as fast as they can. Make it just in time. One Stalker would have been avoidable by the Oracle, but 3 spread around the probes. That's a little bit different. So that was perfectly timed. Shield battery is now up, protecting against the single Oracle, and a second Oracle is not out because you do need the Void Rays. MaxPax realized what was going on, I think before his Oracle actually got in here, and his Oracle just gets to recheck and recheck and recheck, and he knows he's being all in. So he's getting a Void Ray. He's looking for that emergency defense. Stasis traps whenever possible. If ShoWTimE messes up pulling or doesn't put his guys back in gas or something like that, it's pretty worth it. The Warp Prism is out, warping in. It's a number 2 Void Ray on the way. Yep. So 2 Void Rays, 2 shield batteries, 2 pylons. Backup pylon, always important. Shield battery overcharge should be available. Ooh, it will be very soon. Perfectly timed on that as well. And ShoWTimE, well, is looking to overwhelm, but every unit that can be bought from MaxPax is waiting at home, properly protected by the shield batteries. And already ShoWTimE finding the necessity to go elsewhere. It's going to try and get up into that main base. The probe is scouting around there. We do have a shield battery being made. It's not going to be done. The attack in the main base will be successful in terms of at least getting up to the main base, but or the defense of the main base. The Oracle just went down, which kind of sucks, but then it did just alert MaxPax to the movement. So ShoWTimE doesn't bother going into the main base, so just move past that brilliant piece of commentary. And they'll focus more on the natural. Shield battery number 2 goes down, but that is a sacrifice that MaxPax has to be okay with making. Third Void Ray is out. Oh, the Stasis trap! Oh my god! Wow. Okay, ShoWTimE did not anticipate a Stasis trap whatsoever. Holy shit. That was very close to being perfect. That is perfect, actually. The number of Stalkers, even with the other ones coming forward, is not going to be enough to overwhelm MaxPax, who has also done a decent job of building up his own gateway count, right? They're basic gateway units, but they're still helpful. The Void Rays are going to be 2-shot, which means the Stalkers of ShoWTimE take a bunch of damage while they're doing that. And ShoWTimE's attack is not going to work out. Could it have worked without the Stasis trap? Possibly. We'll never know. The Stasis trap was absolutely perfect. ShoWTimE has showed to be a little... stubborn's not the right word, but he's definitely showing more games in which he is willing to just barely hang on. You know, basically 10% chance to win. Alright, I'll actually try to play this out. But they are back again at that, like, 10% or less opportunity to win. It's got to be here now. There's no way ShoWTimE does enough damage to then expand. You know, it's like you either win or you don't. And I do not think he's going to win. The attack in the main base happens. The force field does come down. The old Protoss trickery, am I right? And a recall is used. An overcharge is there for that shield battery that was put up earlier on. And these prismatically aligned Void Rays will be doing a ton of damage. Even if they get shot down, they are adding a lot. And that is going to be it. GG, MaxPax brings us to Game 5. Game number 5 in one of the fastest finals, I'm not going to say ever, but of the last year. In the top right, it is MaxPax. In the bottom left, we do have ShoWTimE. So ShoWTimE's aggression not working out last game because of a very well-placed Stasis trap. ShoWTimE just not thinking about it, noticing it. The option for dealing with it would have literally been blinking one Stalker ahead and then the rest, which I think would have been very possible. So I think that ShoWTimE really just had not... maybe he looked for it with his eyes, but then they missed it. That is possible. But then I think it's also possible that he just kind of forgot that that would be a problem. Maybe he thought, oh, if the Stasis trap was down, it'd be out here, not down there. Whichever one, right? But the Stasis trap was the kick in the nuts. Might have been a very successful attack without the Stasis trap, but we'll never know. It's a bit weird looking at the minimap right now, because it is ShoWTimE. It's going for the low ground gateway. MaxPax once again opting for the high ground gateway, but it is a single gateway. So he's still going to go for the faster expand. Which means that ShoWTimE kind of has more protection. But, well, a slightly faster Zealot to the other side of the map, I guess. I'm not sure how important that is. But they both have the same problem, which is still trying to get the Nexus down and being blocked by the Nexus, or the pylon. So, it's pretty much the same opener, with the difference of the positioning of the gateway. So, another reason why that natural wall off is so nice is that we were talking about Adepts. Adepts will have the same problem as usual getting into the main pro block, right? The shield battery, no problem. But then they might still be able into the natural. Now, your army might be in the natural, so the Adepts only have so much time to do their damage, but it does mean that there is a opening where theoretically for ShoWTimE there is not one. However, with both of them only going for single gateways, the Adept attacks aren't really usually the biggest issue because it's one Adept, right? Maybe they do get a second Adept and they do try and do all that damage with the Adepts, but they also have to be concerned about such attacks like this. You're both on very low production, but if one person makes an Adept, one person makes a Stalker, the Stalker is the more powerful actual army unit, right? And in fact, right now, MaxPax has decided to skip his additional gateway units to favor a faster Stargate. Now, this could really work out. This could be brilliant. So the Oracle is going to fly across the map, meet a shield battery, but then a second Oracle will be there lickety-split, and then, about 4 minutes into the game, he might be adding a ton of probe damage. But right now, as I am speaking, 3 minutes into this game, the lack of units is a tremendous problem. Even the Oracle not able to help out as much as one would hope because the Stalkers do that extra damage. They do take care of the Oracle very well, and you can see the Oracle just has to give up. So it's not going to do very much on this side of the map. Single Oracle, single shield battery, no problem. But it also can't even help on this side. That's a little sketch. Adept comes back from the scouting mission, and I guess all of the forces combined here will take care of ShoWTimE's army as he has no instant reinforcements and also has very limited production. But already that little pokey poke on the front, a little bit concerning. MaxPax behind by a few workers, which could add up. And his 2 Oracles, well, eventually will be on the way. Of course, I've yet to be adding in that damage, so they might finally get out, they might finally go across the probe line and do even 10 probes worth of damage, but if it's at 7 minutes instead of 5, it's just not as impactful. Blink is on the way for ShoWTimE, who did not choose to go for his own Stargate. Just kind of, not going to bother with that after the first game, right? This kind of pseudo-counter, just throw the kitchen sink at the other guy, build, is surprisingly effective. That shield battery in the natural made for the Oracle is now extremely helpful for dealing with this, again, kind of counter-attack, as the Stalker numbers were not high enough against the prismatically aligned Void Ray. Now, once it's not prismatically aligned anymore, there's got to be a fast way to say that. They're not the worst thing to deal with, but we are still talking about these very small unit fights where things can get topsy-turvy pretty quick. You are microing intensely while waiting for that single gateway to finally give me something else to work with. Now, ShoWTimE finally has 3 gateways. His blink is about 60% done, and he has a proxy coming up as well. So this is something that MaxPax needs to figure out and be concerned by. But right now, MaxPax is trying to do something sneaky himself. He's gone to a Dark Shrine. He sees that his opponent does not have any form of detection by going for a Twilight Council. And in a lot of PvPs, Protoss players will try to delay their robo as much as possible. So there is a decent chance that the DTs do damage. But in this case, I think ShoWTimE, recognizing the Oracles, recognize the weakness. Maybe I could die to DTs, is going to grab that 2-base robo, protect himself from that issue, and possibly pump out a Warp Prism. Although the proxy Warp Gate was really supposed to be his first and you know, only plan, I suppose, if he wasn't concerned about DTs. See, the Observer is on the way. Lickety split. And that's Oracle manages to capture one of the defending Stalkers, but not a whole lot of the probes. ShoWTimE's army on the front lines of MaxPax's base. It's a little concerning. That Void Ray and prismatically aligns. It's gotta be a fast way to say it. I'm just gonna say overcharged. Because, you know, it's the same thing as shield battery, but it's fine. The Void Ray go poo-poo, but not for very long. And when it don't go poo-poo, then it might actually be a little vulnerable. The shield battery overcharge also dissipating means that this is the most vulnerable that MaxPax will be, but funnily enough, is the time in which he will grab a Nexus. Now, he did kind of sneak that off, which I think is good. But the DT is not doing as much time buying or chaos as they were hoping. I know there's another one. Where the hell? Oh, there it is. I thought I heard it in my left here, but it was in my right. I don't know if I have my headset flipped. Anyways, the Stalkers are still guarding, but not exactly containing MaxPax, because they could easily just have gone over. Okay, that's weird. So now the contain has actually even been broken. ShoWTimE was really supposed to stop the third base for a much longer period of time. He has no idea that MaxPax's third base is about 80% done, really comparable with his. With that pseudo-contain, he was supposed to have an entire Nexus ahead of his opponent. This was supposed to be the probe that just sent out to get the Nexus. So that's a big mistake from ShoWTimE. MaxPax also proxying his own gateway at some point, by the way. Could just be for a couple of adepts. Might still be worth it. I don't know if MaxPax is really the one in the position to go for the attack, man. He's got 13 Stalkers to 22. A single Void Ray will not make that big of a difference as the Stalker counts continue to grow. It's fairly easy for them, really, to take down a Void Ray. Shield Battery is also here to defend. There's really no way that MaxPax is going to crack ShoWTimE. I mean, that's a pipe dream. That's not going to happen. Now he just loses the Void Ray. I mean, he could. ShoWTimE blinks after it. ShoWTimE actually just going to chase and then blink reflexively, which I think is a wise move that guarantees that he will win the fight. And he took down the Void Ray anyways, just eventually. Oh, this is for DTs. Doy. Could be used for more DTs. Or Adepts, either one. Speaking of, DT does come in for a couple extra probe kills. I mean, in total, 12 probes of ShoWTimE have been killed, I believe, all from the DTs. So that's not terrible. But really, the kicker is absolutely that MaxPax's Nexus actually got placed down. That just wasn't supposed to happen. It's kind of shocking that ShoWTimE did not see the Nexus, because the Stalkers were, like, here, I think, at one point. Still a little too far away to see it, and MaxPax perhaps intentionally placing his first pylon over there instead of over here, like, successfully hides at their base. So ShoWTimE might be thinking, like, okay, eventually this guy's power spike is going to run out, right? The adrenaline is going to run off, and my 3-base economy is going to conquer the mid-game, but it's not exactly true. They're very similar on the economies, and then MaxPax did the probe damage with the DTs. So ShoWTimE might have a very wrong perception of this game. But fortunately for any ShoWTimE fans, people cheering for ShoWTimE, he's usually a pretty patient guy. He's one that will check off the checklist, right? And make sure everything is going to go well before he actually does something decisive. So, you know, maybe if this was a different player and they thought, oh, I have to be winning by now. Like, let's go. They might be attacking into MaxPax and then maybe not losing, but maybe they run in when the charge is done and then they get overwhelmed. They don't have instant reinforcements, and it kind of gets weird because they're like, oh, what the shit? Like, hold on, why do you have so many units? But ShoWTimE's not that player. I also think that you just have to kind of default respect MaxPax a little bit more and be like, well, I'm pretty sure I'm ahead. But finally, ShoWTimE's little hit squad did find the Nexus fully saturated and might have even gotten a scout on the mineral line for him to go, oh, okay, shit, that actually's been there for a while. The supplies remain very, very even. Upgrades very even. Charge finishes around the same time for both players. The only difference is that MaxPax does have the Dark Templars, 2 of them on the field, getting a DT blink as well. But also a big difference. MaxPax with about 11 less Stalkers. Has to be very careful whenever he actually moves his entire army, right? Because either it's going to force a base trade in which he might not be favored, or it's going to alert ShoWTimE that, in fact, hey, I can take this fight. Hey, that's not a whole lot of Stalkers. Now these stalkers for MaxPax is kind of his entire army. For ShoWTimE, this is only part of his army as he continues to warp in, tries to save the Nexus with a overcharge. Doesn't work out. But the Nexus kill might not be good enough as MaxPax also loses his Nexus, loses his probes, is losing battles against only the subdivision of ShoWTimE's army. And MaxPax's fourth is certainly not up and running yet. He is down to 3 bases behind an army supply, and he's about to have 2 armies collapse in on him. ShoWTimE just needs to bring these together, if he even really needs to. I think he might. Actually, DT's coming in for the save. No observer for ShoWTimE as he is forced to fully retreat on the left side, but the right side continues strong. More probes going down. Nexus having to be canceled as well. And what does MaxPax have to show for this? He killed a 4th base, in which ShoWTimE is already replacing. 5th base as well. And he's got DTs with DT Blink. Now, DT Blink can add a lot of annoyances. It can be really frustrating to play against. But MaxPax would have to really pick and choose. If he warps in 2 DTs, he's going to have to try and make sure they never die, which is a difficult task when there's cannons and shield batteries around. And then if he warps in 2 DTs, he's now warping in 2 extra stalkers, and he still is, of course, losing the stalker battle now by a crazy amount. Like, this is not going to look pretty if they both fight each other. Oh, almost 20 stalker difference at points. 3 DTs. Roaming around, trying to do damage, but you need more than 3 DTs to break a fortified Nexus. With the cannons, plural, and a shield battery, you're looking more at 6 or 7, which MaxPax might eventually trickle in because he realizes he needs a bit of a Hail Mary here. He needs that DT blinking to kill the stack defense, kill probes, kill a Nexus, and draw ShoWTimE away from going for his throat. I think ShoWTimE is very aware of that possible tactic, so again, he has gotten more cannons. Many of these bases have plural cannons at this point. He's staying at home until he's maxed out, and perhaps just waiting for the one moment to trap MaxPax. If MaxPax were to run forward, which he just did. You know, MaxPax's attack at the 5th base, but now your army's a bit trapped. This is what ShoWTimE was kind of hoping would happen. DTs, I think, ran in somewhere. They are swiping away, doing some damage, maybe a lot, but ShoWTimE's army is certainly better than his opponent's. A 20 army supply lead. As he doesn't even bother trying to trap MaxPax's army, he just goes for the economy again. So another base canceled, this base killed. Some stalkers are bleeding off for ShoWTimE on the fringe, but even still, MaxPax's army supply dwarfed by ShoWTimE. Zealots and DTs coming in. Once again, DTs being the big news, as ShoWTimE has no observer. He has lost 2 or 3 in the course of this game, something I haven't really noted, but I've been witnessing the snipes. MaxPax knows what he's doing, but it's not impossible for him to get more observers. He actually has 3 of them. They must be going to the front lines. 1 finally joined in. The stalker count has maybe evened up a little bit more, but no, not even. Still a 22 stalker difference. MaxPax is on 4 bases. No, 3 bases, and then even that's not true. He is on 1... Let's round it up to 2 bases. He's on 2 bases. This is the army he's got, and it is not big enough to take on ShoWTimE's. He's also about to be out-upgraded, as ShoWTimE had plenty of minerals and gas to afford that +3 attack, and MaxPax did not. MaxPax's 4 DTs do remain alive, so I think that's pretty notable. That's good control right there. But you can see that they're now even going to die, so never mind. One of them dies. The rest of them could be chased down. MaxPax needs to buy so much more time. He needed to buy all of the time that we've witnessed here without taking any damage himself, and he has taken damage, so problems continue to mount. Now he's even losing his observers. Actually, he could snipe ShoWTimE's, if he's thinking about it. But our DT Warpin's really going to save the day? Probably not. MaxPax on his last stand, it looks like right here. Zealot's coming from the backside, but the army just is not big enough. And ShoWTimE will win the best of 5 that ended up not being one of the quickest best of 5s we've had. This game at 15 minutes, tripling the time of all of the games previous. How about that? But ends with a ShoWTimE victory. GG's. An enjoyable PvP to close out the European Open number 180.